Every week I have a podcast episode with my dad. It's in Korean, so you might not understand what we talk about. But yesterday we happened to talk about a topic that's pretty interesting, and I think it's generally a good thing for you to keep in mind. So my dad's been a hypnotherapist for like 40 years. He's been working with clients for over 40 years, and he didn't just work with clients, right? He in his in his opinion, nobody worked with more clients than himself. And I kind of agree. First of all, he's kind of famous in Korea. He's like been on TV shows, and he's been on like a lot of the, popular media as like the hypnotist. So he has a pretty good, he's pretty well known in Korea, and he's well known as like the expert in that domain. So um, instead of taking that as an opportunity to just not work with clients and just write off of that fame, he kind of used that to work with more clients. And so he's generally very passionate about working with many people. And yesterday I was curious about this particular topic, so I asked him, hey dad, so based on your professional experience of working with people, right, and you probably see a certain pattern among your clients. So if you have a general advice for the public, if you have general advice for everybody, where the advice is basically based on your client cases, what would that be? What would that advice be? And he smiled and gave me three advice. And number one is don't do your best. Number two, don't go for that 100%. And number three, live with ease. So these three sound like counterintuitive advice. But when you think about it, this is his advice that comes from the cases that he has seen in his life, in his practice, right? So if you're a physical therapist, you probably work with a lot of injured people. So what advice would a physical therapist give? Don't overtrain, right? Don't work out so hard. Whereas in general, the public would see that as kind of an anti-advice, right? Of course, we have to work hard, we have to train hard. But now, coming back to this, practice of mental health, being a hypnotherapist, the vast majority of the people who walk into the doors of the hypnotherapy clinic is basically people who are burnt out in contemporary terms. They've reached the threshold of they can't be resilient anymore because they have expended so much energy, right? And these three advices have that in common. When you do your best, right? The problem is you usually don't know how not to do your best if you're the type of person who always does their best. Number two, if you're always going for that 100%, then there's no way you're ever going to be satisfied with anything less than 100%. So these two are already kind of drivers for continuous energy consumption because you're always applying yourself. And therefore, you will not be able to live with ease. You're going to live with so much effort, and you're going to live with so much tension, and you're going to live with so much stress. Now, sometimes, is it healthy in life to experience those things willingly and voluntarily? Sure. It helps you, experience different parts of yourself, and then it helps you grow into a person that you want to be. But then the thing is, if you don't know how to turn that off, then it becomes a problem, right? So what we both understand is this is the general advice that we can give. But more often than not, people work against these advices probably because they don't know how. And their life experiences usually funnel them this way. So you have an upbringing that is really focused on get that 100%. You always have to apply effort. And this kind of an upbringing, you never really know how to counter balance this kind of upbringing. So you're left with this really absolute system inside of your mind that says, no, applying a lot of effort is good. Doing your best and not doing your best is to be frowned upon. It's bad. and anything less than 100% is like not worth doing. So it becomes a vicious cycle of constant draining of energy. And that's what ultimately gets you to cross the threshold of mental health, and then you collapse. And then, we talked about the mind body connection a lot. Like one of my dad's clients suddenly all of a sudden lost mobility in his neck. So he had to turn like Batman, and the neck was stuck like this basically. So he went to all the acupuncturists, he went to all the doctors, but none of them could actually get the head to move. But then with one session from my dad, and working with the unconscious, the head was able to move a little bit, right? And so I remember one of my dad's cases where the client had a difficulty, uh, be basically unable to move their hand. It's like the yips in the baseball, right? So hand is unable to move, but no doctor is able to figure out why. And then my dad went into the unconscious, and then it turns out it's because the person was they were studying for their LSATs, but the way that the LSATs work in Korea is that you have to pass the app with a certain score. Otherwise, you keep trying, you keep trying, you keep trying because there's no other way to be a lawyer. So there's so much accumulated stress from that. The client is like, unconsciously, if I move my hand, then I have to study again. And that basically overcompensates, right? Now you have a different problem because the studying problem nearly makes the mind lose itself. So it surfaces with the new problem, like, oh, I can't move my hand. It defers to a different problem, right? So these are the things that can happen when you cross over that threshold of mental health. And so I know it sounds like anti-advice. I know it sounds counterintuitive, but don't do your best. Learn how to not do your best. Learn how to enjoy the journey and appreciate the journey of getting to that 100%. And learn how to do difficult things with ease. When you apply these advices to your life, you will find that it can go a really long way.